I found the note on our granite countertop, the one Vanessa had insisted we splurge on despite being 3 days away from our mortgage payment. The house was tomb quiet, every light switched off, and there it was, her handwriting on our wedding stationery, mockingly cheerful. "Don't be mad. I need this for my mental health. Going to Bali with the girls for some clarity. I'll be back before you know it. XOXO, V." The mortgage notice sat right beside it, stamped in angry red. Final notice, $4,847, due in 72 hours. She'd taken our mortgage money to Bali. My name is Adam Mitchell, and I'm a senior systems analyst at a mid-sized tech firm downtown. At 34, I'd built what I thought was a solid life, a steady 6-figure income, a beautiful colonial in the suburbs, and a marriage to Vanessa Chen that everyone envied. We'd met 7 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was radiant, ambitious, working as a marketing coordinator at a wellness startup. Her laugh could fill a room, and when she looked at you, it felt like you were the only person in the world. I fell hard and fast. Vanessa was everything I wasn't. Spontaneous where I was methodical, outgoing where I was reserved, creative where I was logical. She balanced me, or so I thought. When I proposed 2 years later on the beach in Monterey, she cried happy tears and said I was her safe harbor in a chaotic world. Our wedding was modest, but perfect. Her vows promised to weather every storm together and never let money or material things come between us. I believed every word. For 5 years we were that couple, the one our friends pointed to as relationship goals. We'd renovate our house together on weekends, she'd pack me lunch with little notes, and I'd surprise her with weekend getaways when work bonuses came through. I trusted her completely. We shared everything, bank accounts, passwords, dreams. When she started working with Eric Morrison, a personal trainer at the upscale gym downtown, I was supportive. She'd mentioned feeling insecure about her fitness, and I wanted her to feel confident. When she started staying later for extended sessions, I admired her dedication. When she bought expensive workout clothes and supplements, I didn't question it. Her happiness was worth the expense. The trust between us was absolute. I never checked her phone, never questioned her whereabouts. Why would I? She was my wife, my partner, my best friend. That trust, that complete faith in her loyalty, made what came next feel like being shot in the chest by someone you'd handed the gun to. The signs started small, so subtle I explained them away like symptoms of a disease I refused to acknowledge. It began with the phone. Vanessa had always been casual about leaving it around, but suddenly it was glued to her palm. She'd angle the screen away during dinner, smile mysteriously at messages, then quickly type responses before placing it face down. When I'd ask who was texting, she'd say, "Just Sarah," or "work stuff," with a brightness that felt forced. Then came the gym obsession. What started as 3 sessions a week became daily visits. She'd leave for a quick workout at 7 p.m. and return past 10. Flushed and energetic in a way that seemed excessive for someone who'd just exercised. Her gym bag, once carelessly tossed by the door, was now meticulously organized and immediately taken upstairs. The financial changes were harder to ignore. Our joint credit card statements showed charges I didn't recognize. Expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to, purchases at lingerie boutiques during her lunch breaks, spa treatments that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. When I asked about them, she'd get defensive, saying she deserved to treat herself, and that I was being controlling about money. Our intimacy dwindled to nothing. She'd come to bed after I was asleep, wake up before me, and spend weekends running mysterious errands. When I suggested we plan a vacation together, she'd deflect, saying she was too stressed about work for trips right now. Yet she seemed to have energy for everything else. Late-night girls' dinners, weekend wellness retreats, and constant texting with people she never named. The most painful part was how she began treating me like an inconvenience in my own home. She'd roll her eyes when I tried to make conversation, sigh heavily when I suggested we cook dinner together, and act like my presence was suffocating her. The woman who once called me her best friend now seemed to actively avoid being alone with me. 3 weeks before Bali, she started picking fights over nothing. The way I loaded the dishwasher, my choice of TV shows, even my breathing while she was trying to concentrate. Each argument ended with her storming out to clear her head, usually returning hours later with no explanation. I kept trying to fix whatever was wrong, apologizing for things I hadn't done, desperately attempting to restore the connection we'd lost. I should have known. Deep down, some part of me did know, but I loved her, and love made me blind to what was happening right in front of me. The realization hit me 18 hours after finding the note, while I sat in our empty house staring at our shared iCloud photo stream. At first, I'd felt only confusion and worry. The mortgage payment loomed, and I'd been scrambling to figure out how to cover it alone. I'd called her phone repeatedly, straight to voicemail. I'd messaged her friends, who claimed they hadn't heard from her. Sarah, her supposed best friend, seemed genuinely surprised when I mentioned Bali. That's when I remembered our shared photo stream. Vanessa was obsessive about documenting everything, and we'd linked our iCloud accounts years ago to share memories easily. I'd forgotten about it until my phone buzzed with a new photo notification. The first image made my stomach drop. Vanessa on a plane, champagne glass raised, captioned, "Finally free." But she wasn't alone. A man's tattooed hand rested on her thigh, and though his face was cropped out, I could see enough to know this wasn't one of the girls. Then the photos kept coming. Every few hours, another update synced to my phone like a knife being slowly twisted. Vanessa in a first-class airplane seat, laughing at something off camera. Vanessa at a luxury resort check-in counter, kissing a tall man with sleeve tattoos, Eric Morrison, her trainer. Vanessa in a private villa pool, topless, wrapped around the same man who'd been taking money from our joint account for months under the guise of training fees. The most devastating came at 2 a.m. my time, a video of them in bed together, Vanessa's face glowing with a happiness I hadn't seen her show me in months. She looked at him the way she used to look at me, like he was her whole world. I sat on our couch until dawn, watching my marriage die in real time through a photo stream. Each image showed her living a life of luxury, while our mortgage notice sat unpaid on the counter. She was using our money we'd saved for emergencies, for our future, to fund her affair in paradise. That's when the clarity hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was calculated betrayal. She'd planned this trip, drained our accounts, and lied about everything while I worried about her well-being. She'd filed fake medical leave at work to cover her absence and had been transferring money to Eric for months. As the sun rose on what should have been our 8-year anniversary week, I realized that the woman I'd loved, trusted, and built a life with had been systematically destroying us for months. She'd stolen from us, lied to us, and humiliated us. And she was documenting it all, too drunk on her affair to remember our connected accounts. I sat there until 7 a.m., watching her betray me in high definition, and something cold and clear settled in my chest. She'd made her choice. Now I would make mine. The old Adam would have called her crying, begging her to come home, trying to fix whatever was broken. But that Adam had died somewhere between the mortgage notice and the video of my wife fucking another man with money she'd stolen from our future. I had 48 hours before her return flight. It was time to act. By 8 a.m., I had a plan. The beauty of being a systems analyst is that you understand how interconnected everything is: finances, legal documents, digital footprints. Vanessa had made one critical error. She'd left me with complete access to everything while assuming I'd remain passive and trusting. She was about to learn that her biggest mistake wasn't cheating on me, it was underestimating me. Phase 1. Financial isolation. I would drain our joint accounts and transfer everything to a new personal account before she could access any more funds. Then I'd cancel all her credit cards, remove her from our phone plan, and freeze any shared financial instruments. She wanted freedom? She could have it, completely. Phase 2. Legal nuclear option. While she was unreachable in Bali, I'd file for divorce under marital fraud and breach of fiduciary trust. In our state, using marital assets to fund an extramarital affair constituted financial abuse. I'd attach every photo, every receipt, every piece of evidence her own documentation had provided. By the time she landed, she'd be served with papers and facing potential criminal charges. Phase 3. Domestic scorched earth. I'd change the locks, secure the house, and remove her belongings. Since the mortgage and deed were in both names, I'd need to act fast to transfer sole ownership before she could contest it. I'd also ensure her employer learned about her falsified medical leave, fraud that would result in immediate termination. Phase 4. Social destruction. The final phase would be the most satisfying. I'd ensure everyone who mattered, her family, our friends, her colleagues, saw exactly who she really was. Not through petty gossip, but through documented proof of her choices. She'd built her new life on lies and theft. I'd make sure everyone knew the truth. The plan required precision timing. She had 5 days left in Bali, and I needed to execute everything before she could respond or counter-move. But I had advantages she didn't know about. Access to all our accounts, legal consultation through my company's benefits, and most importantly, documentation of every crime she'd committed. As I made the first phone call to our bank, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Control. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't reacting to her betrayal. I was orchestrating her consequences. Vanessa wanted her freedom. I was about to give her more than she could handle. I started at our bank at 9 a.m. sharp. Marcus, our account manager, knew us both and was initially hesitant about the large transfers I was requesting. I showed him the printed photos from her Bali trip, the charges on our joint credit card for flights and luxury accommodations, and the mortgage notice. I need to protect our assets from further unauthorized use, I explained calmly. My wife has emptied our mortgage payment fund to finance a vacation with another man. Marcus's expression shifted from confusion to understanding as he processed the evidence. Within an hour, I'd transferred $23,000, everything left in our joint savings and checking, into a new personal account. I closed the joint accounts entirely and opened new ones in my name only. Next stop, American Express. I called the fraud line and reported suspicious activity on Vanessa's supplementary cards. My wife's cards appear to have been compromised, I explained. She's in Bali, but the charges don't match her itinerary, and I believe someone may have cloned her cards. Technically true. The charges didn't match the itinerary she'd told me. Her cards were frozen immediately, pending investigation. At Verizon, I explained that I needed to suspend one line on our family plan due to security concerns. Vanessa's phone would work on Wi-Fi but couldn't make calls or send texts. In a foreign country, she'd be essentially mute. I met with Jennifer Walsh, a divorce attorney my company's legal department had recommended. Jennifer specialized in high-asset divorces involving financial misconduct, and when I showed her Vanessa's photo stream, her eyes lit up. "This is a prosecutor's dream," she said, scrolling through the evidence. She's documented her own fraud, marital asset misappropriation, potential tax fraud if she's claiming fake medical leave, and if this trainer has been receiving marital funds for services not rendered, that's conspiracy. We filed immediately. The petition included charges of marital fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and conversion of marital assets. I requested exclusive use of the marital home, citing Vanessa's abandonment and financial crimes. Most importantly, we filed for emergency asset protection, asking the court to freeze any remaining shared accounts and prevent Vanessa from selling or disposing of marital property. The real masterstroke was the evidence appendix. Jennifer had organized every photo, every bank statement, every transaction into a comprehensive timeline. It read like a case study in betrayal, complete with timestamps and financial records. Any judge who saw this would understand exactly what kind of person Vanessa was. The locksmith arrived at 7 a.m. I changed every lock on the house, installed a new security system, and added a video doorbell. Vanessa's key wouldn't work anymore. But more importantly, I'd have footage of her reaction when she discovered it. I methodically packed her belongings. Not vindictively, I was careful and organized, treating her things with more respect than she'd treated our marriage. Everything went into boxes labeled and stored in our garage. I kept detailed inventory lists and photos, ensuring I couldn't be accused of stealing or destroying her property. The hardest part was removing our wedding photos and the mementos of our relationship. Each item felt like revisiting a crime scene, but I powered through. This wasn't the home we'd built together anymore. It was my home, and it needed to reflect that reality. I also made a discovery that day: Vanessa's laptop, hidden in her closet. She'd forgotten to log out of her email, and what I found there was devastating. Months of correspondence with Eric, planning their trip, laughing about my cluelessness, and discussing how they'd use our money to fund their relationship. There were also job applications. She'd been planning to leave me and move to California with him after draining our accounts. I copied everything, then turned the laptop over to Jennifer. It was additional evidence of premeditation and conspiracy. I called Vanessa's HR department and spoke with Linda, the benefits coordinator. I explained that my wife had filed for medical leave but was actually on vacation in Bali, and I had photo evidence to prove it. "I'm not trying to get her in trouble," I lied smoothly, "but I'm concerned she may have been coerced into this fraud by someone else. I thought you should know so you can protect her." Linda thanked me for my concern and asked me to forward any evidence I had. I sent a carefully curated selection of photos, enough to prove fraud, but presented as if I was worried about Vanessa rather than trying to destroy her. The results were swift. By 2 p.m., Linda called back to inform me that Vanessa's employment had been terminated immediately for falsifying medical documents and violating company policy. Her final paycheck would be reduced by the amount of fraudulent leave she'd taken, and the company was considering criminal charges. This was the most delicate phase. I couldn't appear vindictive or petty. I needed to seem like the heartbroken husband who was simply setting the record straight. I called Vanessa's parents first. Her mother, Margaret, had always liked me, and when I explained what had happened, her shock was audible. "Adam, that can't be right. Vanessa said she was going with Sarah for a wellness retreat." I sent her selected photos, nothing too explicit, but enough to show Vanessa with Eric, clearly not on a girls' trip. "I'm sorry you have to see this, but I thought you should know before the divorce papers are served." Margaret's response was swift and brutal. "That selfish little girl has disgraced our family. Don't you worry, she'll get no help from us." I made similar calls to our mutual friends, always positioning myself as the reluctant truth-teller. "I hate to burden you with this, but I thought you should know what really happened before rumors start spreading." Each conversation followed the same pattern: shock, requests for proof, then immediate condemnation of Vanessa. By evening, our entire social circle knew the truth about her betrayal, documented in her own photos. As her return flight prepared to land, I sat in my reclaimed living room and reviewed what I'd accomplished in 5 days. Vanessa's access to money, eliminated her job, destroyed her family support, severed her social standing, obliterated her legal position, hopeless, her housing, forfeited. She'd stolen our future to fund her fantasy. Now, she'd return to nothing. Vanessa's Uber arrived at 3:47 p.m. on Tuesday. I watched through my new security cameras as she stood on our porch, confusion growing into panic as her key failed to work. She rang the doorbell repeatedly, then pounded on the door, shouting my name. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She called my phone from her Uber driver's phone. Her own had been disconnected. When I answered, her voice was already breaking. "Adam, what's happening? I can't get in the house. My cards aren't working. Check your email," I said calmly. "Everything you need to know is there." "What email?" "Adam, please, I can explain." "The divorce papers were served electronically this morning. You'll find copies in your Gmail, along with documentation of your fraud charges. Your criminal attorney will contact you within 48 hours. The silence stretched between us before she whispered, "Adam, please. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." "No," I said, and my voice sounded foreign to me. Cold, final. "We can't. You made sure of that." I hung up and blocked her number. What followed was exactly what I'd orchestrated, but watching it unfold still provided deep satisfaction. Vanessa spent her first night back in a hotel, using the last $400 on a credit card I'd missed. By the second day, when that card was also frozen pending fraud investigation, she was sleeping in her car, a car whose insurance had lapsed because the auto pay came from our joint account. She went to her parents' house, but Margaret met her at the door with printed copies of the Bali photos. "You've humiliated this family," her mother said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Your father won't even speak your name. Find somewhere else to go." Her friends were no more welcoming. Sarah, her supposed best friend, later told me that Vanessa had shown up crying and desperate, but Sarah had already seen the photos I'd shared. "I can't have that kind of chaos in my life," Sarah explained. "My husband won't let her stay here, and honestly, I don't blame him. What she did to you was unforgivable." Eric, her knight in shining armor, proved to be exactly what I'd expected. When Vanessa called him begging for help, he claimed he was focusing on his business and couldn't get involved in legal drama. The man who'd helped her steal our money and document our betrayal disappeared the moment she needed support. Word traveled fast in Vanessa's industry. Within a week, her termination for fraud had spread through professional networks. She applied desperately for new positions, but background checks revealed her firing for falsifying medical documents. No reputable company would touch her. She eventually found work at a chain restaurant, serving tables for tips, a devastating fall from her previous marketing coordinator salary. Even there, she couldn't escape her reputation. 2 weeks in, a co-worker recognized her from the social media posts that had spread through our extended network. She quit in shame after being called the cheating wife during a busy dinner rush. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Jennifer had done her job perfectly. Every asset was protected, every crime documented, every lie exposed. Vanessa's public defender was overwhelmed and advised her to accept whatever settlement I offered. I offered nothing. The court awarded me the house, both cars, and our retirement accounts. Vanessa was ordered to pay restitution for the stolen mortgage funds, plus legal fees, a debt that would follow her for years. The criminal charges for fraud and theft were still pending, but her attorney warned her to expect jail time. Most satisfying was the final hearing, where Vanessa sat across the courtroom looking like a broken woman. She'd lost weight, her hair was unwashed, and she wore a cheap outfit from a thrift store. When the judge read the final decree, awarding me everything and ordering her to make restitution, she cried openly. She tried to make eye contact with me, but I looked straight ahead. The woman who'd destroyed our marriage for a vacation fling no longer deserved my attention. 6 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Vanessa was living in her cousin's unfinished basement, sleeping on an air mattress and working double shifts at a coffee shop to pay her legal debts. Her cousin charged her rent she could barely afford and made it clear the arrangement was temporary. She'd gained weight from stress and cheap food, lost her confidence, and developed a nervous habit of constantly checking her phone, hoping for messages that never came. Eric had blocked her on social media after she'd tried to contact him repeatedly. Her parents still refused to speak to her. Her former friends avoided her like she carried a contagious disease. The most pathetic detail came from Sarah, who'd run into Vanessa at a grocery store. Vanessa had approached her hopefully, asking if they could catch up over coffee, and Sarah had to tell her that their friend group had collectively decided to cut contact. "She looked so desperate," Sarah told me later. "Like she was drowning and grabbing for anything to hold on to. It was actually sad." I felt no sympathy. This was exactly what she'd earned. While Vanessa's world crumbled, mine flourished. I sold our house at a profit and bought a smaller place closer to downtown, a modern condo with floor-to-ceiling windows and no memories of betrayal. The mortgage payment that had once stressed us was now easily manageable on my income alone. I bought the motorcycle Vanessa had always forbidden, saying it was too dangerous and impractical. Riding it through mountain curves on weekends felt like reclaiming parts of myself I'd forgotten existed. Dating was easier than expected. Women seemed drawn to my story, not the bitter details, but the confident way I'd handled crisis and rebuilt my life. I was honest about being recently divorced, but made it clear I'd moved on completely. The attention was flattering, but more importantly, it reminded me what healthy relationships felt like. I got promoted at work, partly because I was no longer distracted by marital problems, and partly because the confidence I'd gained from handling my divorce made me more assertive in meetings. My colleagues respected how I'd handled my personal crisis without bringing drama to the office. 6 months after the divorce, I started dating Rachel, a veterinarian who was brilliant, independent, and refreshingly direct. When I told her my story, she said, "Good for you for not letting her destroy your life too." No judgment, no pity, just respect for someone who'd protected himself from a destructive person. 1 year after Bali, I was having dinner with Rachel when I spotted Vanessa across the restaurant. She was alone, wearing a server's uniform, looking exhausted as she cleaned tables. Her hair was shorter, her face had aged, and she moved with the defeated posture of someone who'd lost everything that mattered. She saw me too. For a moment, we made eye contact across the crowded restaurant, and I saw everything in her expression: regret, shame, desperate hope that I might acknowledge her with some sign of forgiveness or closure. I looked right through her and continued my conversation with Rachel. Later, as we left, I heard Vanessa call my name softly. I didn't turn around. There was nothing she could say that I needed to hear, no apology that could undo what she'd chosen, no explanation that could restore what she'd destroyed. She'd traded our marriage for a 5-day fantasy with a man who'd abandoned her the moment she became inconvenient. She'd stolen our future to fund her betrayal, documented her own crimes, and expected me to remain passive while she destroyed everything we'd built. Instead, she'd learned that actions have consequences, that betrayal has a price, and that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Walking to my motorcycle with Rachel's hand in mine, I felt completely free. Vanessa had given me the greatest gift possible. She'd shown me exactly who she was, and I'd made sure everyone else saw it too. Her betrayal had cost her everything, and that was the last luxury she'd ever afford. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.